They're white.
Those are.
They're white, they're clean, they haven't touched butter. They were all Awesome. All right, so it looks like we've got some new faces, maybe some more students, am I right? Awesome, okay.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. This is 1 million cups. Leah, you do a really good job of saying exactly what 1 million cups is. I tried last week. I just was like,
Who comes to 1 million cups a lot?
Yeah, we've got some seasoned veterans.
Seasoned vets. Can someone tell me why you come to 1 million cups? What is 1 million cups to you?
Community. It's Madison, one of Madison's best networking opportunities, but not only that, it's a great way to learn about a whole lot of different companies within the area and potentially make connections that could be immediately beneficial in terms of sales or lead generation or whatever, or just plain adding to a network so you can make connections through a person that are really valuable.
Absolutely. So we are a community of people who are here to really support entrepreneurship in our community. See how many times I can use the word community today. And so really the big piece of it is we meet together. It's called 1 million cups because we believe over 1 million cups of coffee together we can really do great things. But we always end our presentations. Sorry, I have a lot of trouble breathing. This whole pregnancy thing is really throwing me off. So at the end, we always ask, we have a community ask, what can we do for you? What is the community can we help you with? And so that's really the basis of 1 million cups, is helping each other to be better.
so a major component of this is Mitch. I'll introduce him again in a second. But he's going to give a short 6 to 10 minute presentation about his company or his startup or his whatever. And he'll only have that amount of time. So anything he doesn't touch on or anything that you're like, wait, that doesn't make sense, ask the question, because that's the largest component is having that community engagement and that feedback, and just really answering tough questions, but not too tough.
We consider this dolphin tank. It's not Shark Tank.
Yeah, so that's just something to think about too. So last week we had a really big group. This week we have a nice group. So we're actually going to go around and say everyone's names. And if you're a student, you can just say student. But we generally say people's occupation so that our speaker knows who he's talking to. This also is really helpful, vice versa, so you know who's in the room. Yeah. Anyway,
one other thing to note is part of our social media, Field 59 did a live stream for us. So if you guys want to come back and review the content for today, you can go to our Facebook page and there'll be a live stream up on our Facebook page for you to access.
and speaking of Field 59, I'm going to thank our sponsors really quick. Field 59 for doing the live stream. Crescendo Coffee for giving us 1 million cups of coffee. The library for the good space, and Old National Bank.
Old National Bank helps us pay for the coffee. I don't know if Crescendo would be so kind to give it to us all the time.
Maybe we can talk now. Other than that, just a few community announcements. CultureCon and Disrupt Madison are having big conferences in June, so tickets are on sale now. Zach, did I steal your thunder there?
No, that sounds great.
If you have questions, ask Zach. Culture Community is March 8th at the Madison Club at 8 a.m. So we're really excited about that. What else is going on? Anything else? Well, if you guys have community announcements, feel free to shout them out when it's your turn. Otherwise, I think I'll get started with introductions. Diana, do you want to start?
I am Diana Pastrana. I'm with M&M Office Interiors in Middleton.
Good morning. My name is Julie Ann Selesky. I do business development for the Madison Club.
Mitch will come back to you.
Yeah, sorry, Mitch. Go ahead.
I'm Michael. I'm one of the organizers for 1 Million Cups as well. To sort of continue on the what is 1 Million Cups theme, if you would like to present, or if you know someone who would like to present here at 1 Million Cups Madison, we have a website portal. That's 1millioncups.com/Madison, I think it is. Or you can talk with me before or after, or get people in touch with me. I'll coordinate to get them on the schedule and get them ready to present and to kind of know what goes on here if they have not attended very much. On that note, for people who are considering presenting, I see the 1 Million Cups value also from the people who are applying to present here at 1 Million Cups. And I think there's a huge value that is Mitch today and presenters in general get to extract knowledge from all of you, often bringing a question that is targeted at sort of a wide array of expertise here in the audience. So I consider it part free consulting, part free marketing, and definitely a great opportunity to build connections with people who can really help you, who often do not ask for much or anything in return because they're very community oriented. So that's my spiel.
You work at a company?
I do work at a company. Thanks for asking, Leah.
You're welcome.
I am a software engineer at HealthBench.
I am now the VP of People Apps at HealthBench. So thank you. I am also with Maven, Military Affiliate Virtual Assistant Network, and Culture Community. Yeah. Culture something.
My name is Josh Helling. My background is in technology and operations and product in a startup context. I've recently left the corporate world to pursue more entrepreneurial things.
My name is Aiden Winnery. I'm also at HealthBench in customer success, and I'm also on the Culture Community Organizer Board.
I'm Drew Corson. I'm the volunteer coordinator for Free Bikes for Kids, which is a nonprofit that collects, refurbishes, and gives away bikes to kids for free.
Nice.
Appropriately named.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Mariah Lisa Holterman. I'm a freelance graphic designer and also a health and wellness coach. Mandy Haberman. I'm a nutrition and health and wellness coach, and I work as a wedding and portrait photographer for a company out of Milwaukee.
I'm Dominic DeMarco. I'm a recovering startup entrepreneur who is now entrepreneur in residence for an insurance company based out of Sydney, Australia. Specifically, I work with their venture team, and I'm an international startup scout.
Hi, I'm Ruby, and I'm a student.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and I'm also a student.
Hi, I'm Celia, and I'm also a student.
Jessica Drexler. I'm a business development and brand consultant for a virtual agency called Freshen Up, and also consult under my own LLC called Core Relations.
I'm DP Knudten. I'm a student of life and also the writer of a book. Rotoma, the ROI of social media, top of mind. Danny, I've got your copies today. And I work with people consulting on creative and collaborative issues.
I'm Dennis Barnum. I'm a Merlin mentor. I want to just mention the pitch and replay part of Badger Startup Summit, which is the inaugural event for Forward Fest in August. If you have an idea or a company that you want to practice pitching, talk to me. It's always, we find a lot of startups in this area get their start that way, and it really helps them refine their idea and their business. And as a serial entrepreneur myself, I want to mention that I think it's important to support your fellow entrepreneurs, having started several companies myself. It's no secret, it's tough, and any support you can give each other is always a good thing. That's why I show up here.
Perfect. I'm Mike Booth. I'm with Enterprise Systems Group. I'm basically a technology solutions specialist. The only thing I want to mention is we do our own monthly event called Taps in Technology, and we host it at the Madison Club. And it's a great networking event for everybody to show up and learn more about some new and emerging technology. Thanks.
My name's Trent. I'm a student at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and a student of life with DP.
Hi, I'm Nathan. I am VP of Transcend, and it's an innovation competition at Madison. And you're all welcome to come. It's April 4th and 5th. So, yeah, that's about it.
I'm Max. I'm also a student at the university. I'm also part of Transcend and also an intern at Starting Block.
I'm Lucas, startup team strategist for Starting Block.
Zach Blumenfeld. I'm at Third Space and CultureCon.
Mitch DeWitt. I'm with Walkner Condon Financial Advisors, and we have a podcast. It's called Give Me Some Truth, and we try to provide some more communication and transparency in our industry.
I'm Mario, student. What's up? I'm Trey, also a student.
I'm Josh, a student.
I'm Lexi, and I'm a student.
I'm Jordan. I'm the president of Transcend. So as Nathan said, I always invite you guys April 4th and 5th. We're having over 100 teams compete. We're the country's largest student-run innovation competition, and we're having the vice chancellor and the dean of college of engineering speak. So they're always good to hear from too.
I'm Jake. I'm a student.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and I'm also a student.
I'm Emma, I'm a student.
I'm Jake. I'm a student.
I'm Lori Carlson. I own and operate Madison Greenbox.
I'm Derek Gebler, CEO and founder of Field 59, video for media companies.
I'm Danny Anderson. I work for Baker Tilly.
I'm Shannon Flash. I'm a project manager at WPS.
I'm Dan LaCloche. I'm a content marketing consultant, but I'm also thinking about becoming an inspirational speaker.
I am Andrew Gonzalez, a commercial lender with Old National Bank.
Hey, I'm Brian. I'm also a student. Wait, just kidding. I actually work at Old National Bank too.
Thank them for the coffee afterwards. Yeah.
That's right.
So without further ado, Mitch, my good friend from Lyft Consulting, you've got
10 minutes.
Well, I mean,
No, thank you, Joanne. I appreciate it. Very nice to meet all of you. Great crowd. Hopefully none of you had to break out your ice skates to get here today. Definitely a slippery one out there. But as Julianne said, I got 10 minutes. So what are we going to cover today? When I thought about what I was going to put together for this presentation, I was like, do I try to cram as much knowledge in 10 minutes? To all of you, and what I figured you might feel like you got hit by a truck, so I figured let's scale that back, and really what I'm going to do is provide a large base overview of what our company is, what we do, so that you can leave with a better understanding of who Lyft Consulting is. The outcome today, somebody asked for the group, is please ask me any questions you have. I want to see, maybe what questions that haven't been asked before, so I can think of what creative answers VP can help me answer. And the other side of it too, if there is anything I don't get to today, or if there is anything that is of interest to you, your company, or maybe somebody you know, please reach out to me. I'd love to set up a one-on-one to get to know you a little bit better, or whoever, questions I can't answer in a group setting, I'd be happy to do that as well. Is that fair ask? Okay. Cool. So just a little bit about Lyft Consulting. So we were started back in 2014 by Matt Pletzer. Many of you may have heard him. He speaks around the community often. Matt has a large background in sales and sales leadership, and essentially came to the idea of starting Lyft Consulting because he was sick of living on an airplane, flying to Texas every week. Had twin daughters, and he wanted to spend more time with his family. But in his career, being in sales and sales leadership, saw a large opportunity that he had interacted with many consulting firms and sales training, sales development organizations, saw what they offered, what he really liked about what they offered, but also saw what they lacked, what they didn't deliver. And so he really wanted to create a solution for the Dane County, Madison, surrounding areas, for the companies here to take advantage of. So really, through his interactions with different development companies, we partnered with Sandler Training. That's the logo you'll see on many of our slides. Sandler's an international organization with over, I think, 242 locations now that focus on sales, customer service, and management training. So that's a little bit about who we are as Sandler Training. People asking what's different about Sandler Training versus any sales training organization out there. Many training organizations will focus on boot camps, or let's get your organization all jazzed up for the new year. But while those are great, many times you'll get the knowledge, but then it won't be implemented into your daily routine or your daily sales activities. So Sandler is they believe more in a reinforcement-based training. So most of our clients engage with us with a year or more at a time. Just a little bit of a timeline on us here as well. So we started in 2014, as I mentioned, and today we're already at our expanded 3 times, and we're up to 6 people, which for anybody who knows consulting firms, they typically run pretty small and lean. So we're up to 6 people now. Just a quick cast of characters: Dan Truel, myself, Matt Pletzer in the middle is our CEO, Stephanie Larson, and then Kevin Guy and Steve Awney. That's who makes up the Lyft Consulting team. So, anyone who wonders, kind of who we work with, how do we work with our organizations, and really I broke it down into 3 main categories. So these are the characteristics and challenges of the prospects that we'll interact with or deal with. There's no absolutes here, but I just try to make it as clear cut as I could in 3 categories. So on the left-hand side, see if my clicker works. The enterprise level, everyone has a different definition of enterprise. We're identifying enterprise level accounts as organizations that do $25 million or more a year in revenue, and they also have 10 or more sales employees. So some of the things that we'll hear from them is that, hey, their sales cycle is really long, and their salespeople should be closing the business faster. Potentially maybe they have a large team and their results are inconsistent. So they're trying to figure out, hey, why do we have a top performer? Why is the person on the bottom not performing? And also, when you have a larger sales team, oftentimes they'll lack a unified sales language. So what that means is that there's no repeatable process that they're following at the sales calls or in setting up those meetings. So some examples of organizations, they could be ones that offer software as a solution, capital equipment, medical devices. Those are companies that we'd be working with in that that field. And typically, we'd be dealing with the director of training or the director of sales as our main point of contact. And really, when we're working with them, because they're such a large organization and we're limited to 6 people, we're often going to only be able to offer 1 or 2 of our services, not our whole array. The middle, which is our mid-market, that makes up the largest clientele of who we work with. The challenges that those those organizations we're identifying mid-market as are doing $2 to $25 million in revenue. They typically have 1 to 10 sales employees, but when I say 1, I definitely have 1 dedicated sales or business development role. And typically, not always, that 1 or however many salespeople are reporting directly to the CEO, owner, or president. And because of that, because they don't have any sales management or director of operations, that's that buffer between the sales and the sales team and the president or owner will often say, I don't have time to coach, train, or develop that role appropriately. Other times, the sales team doesn't fit in with the organization. It's typically the president's trying to just bring someone in to take things off of his plate, but as such, they kind of are the outcasts in the organization because more of the organization is made up of back-end support, administrative staff, and it's common times they don't gel. And because they don't gel, or because that person was rushed to be brought in, there's a high turnover or it's a burnout in that position. So not only is the owner or president tasked with developing that person, but they're constantly doing that with the new people as they've been brought in. Some of the organizations in that field that we're dealing with, they'd be in the construction industry, they could be CPAs, it could really be a large array of different organizations. But as I mentioned, the big key thing there is we're going to be dealing directly with the CEO, the owner, and we're going to be offering a holistic solution, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. And then last is the individuals. I don't mean just individuals in general. It could be small organizations such as startups. But typically, they're going to be doing over $100,000 a year in revenue. It could be up to that $2 million mark of the mid-market. But really what's going to be happening is because they're an individual, say in the professional services world, as financial advisor, insurance agent, or realtor, they lack accountability because there's no one holding their feet to the fire. Perhaps they're working so hard in their business, they haven't had a chance to develop a business plan because they're working in their business, not on it. And other times, they say they're active, but they're not productive. They're spinning their wheels, really working on a lot of prospects, but then they never cross the finish line. So they're looking to us to provide an array of services to help them get their business to where they're trying to be. And like I said, typically wouldn't be working with those individuals or the small company in their entirety. Does that all make sense? Any questions on any of that? As I mentioned before, the mid-market actually makes up the largest percent of our client base here in the Madison area. So about 65% of our current clients fall in that $2 to $25 million range. And then the other 35% are going to be between the enterprise and individuals. So yes, I did search frustrated CEO, and that's the picture I got. So you want to know what Google gives you? But a little bit of why I talk about the mid-market being the largest percent of our client base. When I mentioned before is that when you have a sales team or individual dealing directly with the CEO, owner, or president, the challenges they run into, especially if any of you have been a leader or have been in a leadership role, there's 4 main characteristics of a leader. And those 4 characteristics are that they're going to coach, supervise, train, and mentor their employees. And when you have to not only do, all of your other jobs, so when you talk about leaders wearing multiple hats, when they're trying to balance that, especially with training and developing their internal staff, it's definitely a challenge. So when you break that up, 45% of a leader's time as it relates to developing a salesperson is spent on coaching them. So when you think about back to when you learned to play soccer or learned to play the piano, anything that you would have learned in life where you had a coach, it's something that you're going to learn through experience. Someone's going to tell you what to do, teach you how to do it, but it's through that self-discovery that you understand how that's going to work. The other side of it, it's the mentoring. So really, that's someone who's walked in your shoes once before. Again, in the mid-market accounts, they don't have another sales rep or sales manager to be like, hey, that's your mentor. So the owner or CEO is challenged with that time and saying, hey, this is how we've done it, this is how we're going to do it, and they don't have somebody else to push that to, so it's another 10% of the time spent on that. The third aspect is training. So as any organization, you always want your employees to be more efficient and effective at what they do. So whether, say, in the sales role, you want them to learn better strategies, techniques to shorten their sales cycle. So that's, again, another 10% that they're spent a leader's time to train their employees to make sure that they're being the best employees they can be. And then the last part, which is the last 35%, owners and CEOs in a mid-market company not only are spending time supervising sales reps, but everybody else in the organization. So what I mean by supervise is that everyone has a daily task, weekly tasks that they're expected to do. And so when they're spending the time not only with the salesperson, but the whole organization, it's definitely a large time stuck on them as well. And so they're looking for help on a lot of these areas. So where do we come in? We can provide the coaching, the training, and the supervision of their sales teams. So that's why we gel so well with organizations in this situation. Since we're not in that specific company every day, we can't be a mentor. We can't say, hey, do as we've done, because we haven't been their shoes. But we can coach them. We can walk them through new strategies and techniques, help them get their business to where they want to be. We can train them. As we see, we have the Sandler training platform, so we can help them with the sales training and development. And the last part is the supervision. So we can help them with their daily accountabilities. A lot of times salespeople have no idea what do they need to be doing on a daily basis to get to their goals. They say, hey, I want to generate $1 million in revenue in 2018, but how am I going to get there? So we help them develop what we call their cookbook. So what is that daily activity they need to be doing to get to their results? So we can ask them at the end of each week, hey, did you get the goals that you expected to do? Not only, you can't always control the results, but you can control the behaviors. So that's where we can be their outsourced supervision team. And really, when you look at it, as it comes down to a leader in a mid-market account, studies have shown that 30% of their productivity is lost developing a salesperson. So just think about their time that's spent. Not only are they working with the whole organization, but 30% of the time specifically is going to be spent making sure that that person they brought in is effective and efficient as they can be. So really, that's why a company would want to work with us, is because we're going to help them get that time back that they can be better spent with their other employees and working in their business to get where they want to be. So, I kind of ran through that, but let's open up for questions, or if you're wondering who we are, the website and my email's on it. Dennis, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to thank you for resurrecting some long suppressed personal nightmares, but the thing I struggled with my businesses is, that's exactly the problem I struggled with in a lot of instances. Most mid-market companies are drove as a result of the personal energy and knowledge of the founder. And the biggest problem I had was basically trying to clone myself, and I would hire people like yourself back then. And I guess I'm going to ask why you're different, because my experience with people like that back then was they're almost like they would come with a formula. Here's the standard stuff I learned in sales training, and they could never really come up with a good way of extracting the knowledge I had and the culture I had and imparting that to the people I hired. That was what I struggled with.
Sure.
I would hire people that I thought were good. I would try to get them in sync with myself, and then they would just wander. How do you solve that? That to me was the number one problem that I had. How do you solve that?
Sure. So just to make sure I understand your question correctly, you're talking about sales development specifically, or organizational?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah. Every small mid-market company has almost a unique niche that they've developed, that they're successful in their knowledge of the product, the service, the client base. And then there's the culture of how do you mesh with the other people, which is a big deal. That really is a big deal. How do you attack that specific problem?
Sure, absolutely. So oftentimes when organizations come to us and say that they have a high turnover problem, they say, hey, I just can't find the right person. We'll actually take it a step back versus saying, hey, we have a one solution that fits all. We actually will look at what processes do you have behind that person you're bringing in. So one of the first things we do with any new person that we help any of our clients bring on is we'll actually use assessments. So the two common assessments we use are DISC and Divine. I don't know if you're familiar with either of those.
DISC, yeah.
So DISC has been very telling in the way how we formulate a lot of our interactions with our clients, because if you look at an organization in general, and for those of you who aren't experienced and have no idea what the heck DISC is broken down into 4 primary behavior styles. So each of us have a primary DISC profile. And so we'll get a DISC profile of what your current organization is. So everyone will take the assessment, and then identify what is the role that would fit. So when you talk about culture, if you have a bunch of talkative and interactive individuals in your organization, you bring in a dominant bulldog, of course they're not going to gel. So that's one of the ways we look at it. And then divine is another way. When you talk about you have a very specific role that you're trying to fill, and you're not sure how to fill it, divine is actually an assessment that's a 30-page report that will tell you what that individual is successful with and what they struggle with, and and it gives you a range of how good of a fit they are for that role.
Okay, but I mean, DISC. I think my profile was analytical driver.
Okay.
I wouldn't want a company full of analytical drivers. That would be a disaster. So let me go to a different direction.
Sure.
Talk about some of your successes in dealing with people like myself in this area. What has proved?
Sure.
I mean, I don't have names, but just kind of general.
No, absolutely, yeah. So typically, like I was saying before, a lot of, one organization that comes to top of mind, they've had 3 sales reps in 12 months. It's just churn and burn. So they came to us saying, I need somebody to help hiring the sales rep. Because that's one of the things that we'll offer is we'll do boutique sales recruiting. However, when we looked at their processes, they had no standard onboarding structure. So no matter who they hired, no matter how qualified that individual was, you brought them into the organization, you just hand them a computer and say, hey, go sit over here and start making cold calls. No matter who you put in that position, after a while, it's just not going to work out.
Yeah.
So we try to take it a step back and to say, okay, what is your onboarding process? And then from there, what is that structure of that role going to be? So we really try to understand with the organizations we're working with, what is that sales playbook you have for the organization? And more often than not, organizations have never spent the time to develop that playbook. So what I mean by playbook, just for those of you who have never heard that term, it's just what is the understandings of the daily activities for that role, what's the expectations, and then how are they going to do it? What is the company's scripts or, go-to-market strategy, if you will. So those are just some of the.
Okay, thanks.
So I had a similar thought process of question is when you're implementing your formula, how much does it take into account the personal brand of the company you're working with? But on top of that, how much of how you guys consult is Sandler talk? How much is 100% formula and how much is Matt Plebs or Mitch Mustardi's advice?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. I mean, because there's Sandler literal and there's Sandler reality. And the company started with Sandler, but over time as we branched out into more consulting type gigs and, the recruiting side, that's not Sandler. So I would say overall, it's probably a third of each of what we're spending. So a lot of it we have to formulate and create to adapt to that organization.
Question, Mitch?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Kind of a change of pace, but what does new product development look like for a sales consulting company? What's the next thing that's really on Lift's radar for advertising a service or feature or whatever?
So that we're doing, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So actually this year we've had a lot of success. I was talking about that mid-market model. It's actually something more recently that we've been adopting is having that buffer between the sales rep and the owner of a company. Traditionally it was more helping organizations find the right salespeople and develop them. But what we've realized with a lot of our current clients is that they just needed somebody to help manage that sales rep. Because they didn't have A, the time, or B, the expertise in that exact field to help them get to their full potential. So that's really, as of 2018, that's one area that we had a lot of success.
That's interesting. Thank you.
So when you're in that role in the mid-market, it's just out of curiosity, do you see yourself as working for the principal, for the owner, the CEO, and kind of functioning as an outsourced sales management layer, or are you sometimes brought in more to help a specific individual salesperson? I guess so the distinction I'm looking for is, are you providing that supervisory and coaching service for the team as a whole, or just for select parts of it?
It could be either way. Yeah. So it just really depends on each organization, because as I said before, there's no magic, wand that we could apply to all. So it really just depends on what that organization's needs or desired outcome is.
When you guys are working with a mid-market group, when you first come in to consult with them, what's, I guess, the biggest roadblock that you face for them to adopt kind of your advice?
Absolutely. The biggest thing, actually, I guess I'll ask you guys, if I asked you between time, effort, and money, what do you think the number one reason that kills most deals is? What's the question? Say the question again. So time, effort, and money. What do you think of those three is the biggest reason a deal would be killed? Between time, effort, and money. Time. It's actually effort. So it kind of goes in with the time effort, but most people don't want to put in the necessary work that we're proposing to actually get the outcomes that they want. So that's where we'd actually rather disqualify them than rather come in and say, oh yeah, we'll make that budget work. So it's actually the effort side of it.
When you bring on a new client, what do you kind of expect for a timeline to see some sort of improvement in the sales organization or personal growth? I mean, there's got to be some sort of metrics you measure that by.
Well, sure, yeah. So there's many different ways we engage with organizations. Most typically, there's either a 90-day model or a 12-month. As I mentioned in the Sandler style, that's typically a 12-month program plus.
Okay.
So it really just depends on the individual. Because a lot of it, like in the Sandler side, it's like college. I mean, you can come and attend a lot of our training, but you don't get out as much as you put in. And so it really varies by the individual.
With that being said, I mean, what kind of renewal are your clients continuing to do business with you after that 90-day or 12-month model?
For the 12-month on the Sandler side, yes. So actually, I'd say almost on average, many of our clients actually will come up to 3 years as it relates to different types of sales management and training. Okay. Sandler has a certification program that people can also get into, so it's kind of like a master of another degree, if you will. Right, yeah.
Do you guys coach until success, or do you ever make the recommendation to cut ties, burn the bridge, and move forward?
It's a great question. Actually, we'd rather cut the tie with somebody if they're just not dedicated or engaged. I mean, I've had, I've seen clients that, they'll show up and then all of a sudden 6 weeks they're not showing up, and it's like, again, go ahead.
But I guess I mean, like, do you ever advise the CEO, the salesperson is crap, you have no chance, let us help you hire somebody? Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like.
Sure. We won't use that word, but yes, there are actually, there are situations where, yes, an organization will come to us and say, yes, I want sales training for 10 of my staff. And we're like, hey, pump the brakes here 1 second. And the very first thing we'll actually do is assess their team. Because I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Challenger sales model. Any of you heard that term before? But one of the characteristics in the Challenger sales model is a lone wolf. So it's typically like your top salesperson, but no matter what you do, what kind of guidelines or structure you give them, they'll never follow it. And so if we have an organization that comes to us and say they want to put 10 people in sales training, and 5 of them are of that lone wolf mentality, why would I want to tell that owner, yeah, I'll take your money, and then not see any success from those 5 people? So I'd rather assess and understand, hey, are these people even coach or trainable, and then move forward.
Yeah, but wouldn't you want to take the characteristics of the lone wolf and train that?
So that's a great question. What do you think happens with the lone wolf, though?
Well, sometimes they're lone wolves, they're truly lone wolves. Sometimes they're just simply thinking outside the box with good ideas.
So I'll have to challenge the sales model that actually is the characteristics of a challenger. So the challenger is the one thinking outside the box and presenting new ideas and pushing back to their prospects.
All right. What are the 4? There's 4 different types of the challenger model.
Sure, absolutely. So you have the lone wolf, you have the relationship builder, you have the challenger, you have the, gosh, now that you put me on the spot, the challenger, lone wolf, relationship builder, gosh.
And the one that gets
I'll get back to you. Dennis doesn't look it up. But what happens is you can't corral or duplicate a lone wolf. So if you tried to take the successes of them and duplicate it, it's tough. And that's why, based off the challenger sales model, they always set the characteristics of a challenger, which is oftentimes with the Sandler system is very synergistic with, is why most companies will want to blend off that style. Does that answer your question? Okay. Hold on. Mandy, go ahead.
So I'm just curious about your individual clients that you have in the area. What sort of industries are in that individual category? The startups and the like the 100,000 plus type businesses. What sorts of businesses are those?
Oh, those, yeah. So I'd say we're primarily 3 main verticals, but we do work outside those. The first one would be construction services. So anybody who's presenting a bid, so whether you're a general contractor, electrician, architect, plumbers, that's the whole construction services silo. Then professional services would be the second, so insurance agents, real estate agents, financial advisors, lawyers, we've even worked with dentists or doctors. And then the third would be the IT and tech world, so a lot of software companies, like I mentioned, Solution is a software, and those organizations, they're ahead of the curve, so they're trying to sell a product or a solution that nobody knows they need yet.
Yeah.
So how do you formulate the strategy?
How variable is like your actual strategies or formulas go based on like every single industry, like so?
As it relates to sales training, consulting, what do you mean by that?
I'd say like both sides. Like if you have someone who's selling like a specific service or like large equipment, like how is it kind of just like the formula and the actual strategies like uniform throughout each industry, or you change it and kind of filter it towards every?
Sure, that's a great question. So within our model, there's 3 different ways we'll interact with clients as it relates to sales training and the SAM there. We'll either do it in a public format, so organizations that just believe sales is sales, so any general training is great. That's great for them. Then there's private, so there's organizations that say, no, I want my salespeople or sales individuals trained in a specific way. I want to have a very structured process for them to follow, then that's private. And then we also offer blended. So sometimes they'll say, hey, I want to get the benefit of hearing how other people learn as well in a public format. Because typically we'll have about 25 people in a room at any time. And some people prefer to learn from others versus be in a small kind of more lecture style. But then we can also give that one-on-one in a blended format. That help answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Danny.
Mitch, I was looking at your LinkedIn. I was just wondering about your previous experiences before this company.
Sure.
Did you have like excellent sales training in those organizations that led you to get this, or you were looking for better training?
So that's a great question, actually. In all my previous experiences, most of those organizations had a great onboarding process, which I appreciated. But then throughout the years, when they had their sales, annual sales meetings, they would also often just do a boot camp. And you'd get 10 great ideas. You go back to work that next Monday, all jazzed up, ready to do it. And then by the time you actually thought about implementing them, maybe one of those ever became one of your routines. And that's actually both why Matt and myself are interested in the Sandler model, is being able to reinforce change over time versus just get some quick information. So that's definitely what drew me to working in this situation as it relates to sales training and development. DP had a hand up before.
Yeah, well, I always try to find a metaphor or an analogy to make what you do make sense in my mind. Are you guys kind of like fitness trainers that ideally you have a multiple relationship over a period of time, so you build the skills so you can do your own fitness regimen?
It's a good analogy. I always like to think of it more like building a house. So a lot of organizations will, you have a foundation that's pretty uniform and it's always concrete for the most part, but then the house is going to look different. So as you build your sales process to yourself and your organization, we'll have the structure to provide it on the bottom, but then we want you to make it your own within that system. So I guess I always use more of the building a house than digital, than the fitness, but that could be definitely that.
Okay, can I interrupt? So if you trying to run the show. No, I'm just kidding. If you could repeat one more time what your ask is of all of us. We always like to end the session with your community ask. What can we do to help you, and in what way can we show our support?
Sure, yeah. I had 2 asks. The first was to bombard me with questions, and Dennis kicked it off great, so I appreciate that. So thank you for your questions. That was very helpful. Second was just, if there was anything that I didn't answer, or if there was any interest in continuing the conversation that made more appropriate to have it on a one-off, I'm happy to do that. And if it makes sense, I'll be here afterwards if you want to get something on the books. That was more, oftentimes there's questions or thoughts come up as it relates to organizations that don't make sense to talk about in a group setting, so I'm always happy to address those one-off.
And then if we could give him a round of applause and a thank you. Picture with it, but and then as always, you need to give this out to the best question, the toughest question, the nicest question, the meanest question, really whatever question you liked. That's yours to give out.
Best question, toughest question.
Whatever your criteria, whatever you're feeling this morning.
I think Dennis has to have like a cupboard full of these.
Give it to one of the students.
I know, that's what I was thinking over here. Do any of the students ask a question?
Jordan. Student who asked a question, raise your hand.
I don't want to be that guy, but...
Obviously, we go around the room, so we really get to know you, and I don't know your name. But
Yeah.
Thanks again, Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch. And he'll be around, as he said, for a little bit after if you guys still have extra questions. I think we have the space until 10:15, so.
Grab and drink as much coffee as you possibly can right now.
All right, thanks guys, see you next week.
Hey, how you doing?